Hey guys, it's Bailey from Making Up Midwest, and this is going to be a review of new products from CoverGirl. It is the Ready Set Gorgeous kind of face makeup collection. There are two foundations included, one liquid and one powder, and one concealer. So if you want to see my thoughts on all of these, as well as some before and after pictures, and my thoughts on how this foundation stacks up to two other foundations from the CoverGirl line, stay tuned. First, I want to start with the liquid foundation. On the back here, first I'm in the shade Nude Beige, or 120, and on the back here it just says one simple step for a flawless natural look that lasts all day. The formula blends easily to even skin tone and reduce shine all day, so it sounds like it's supposed to be the perfect foundation for the warming weather. The consistency here is probably the thinnest I've ever experienced with a CoverGirl foundation, but what's interesting is that it dries to a powder. It's very similar to the L'Oreal Magic Liquid Powder Foundation, or Benefit's Better Than BB Big Easy foundation. And what I've found with foundations that have that consistency is they are layerable to a point. So I would say this is light to medium coverage, but the heavier the coverage you get, the more you can kind of see brush strokes and how much you've layered on, because it does dry down to sort of a powdery consistency, so you can see brush strokes more easily. That's definitely not a bad thing, because I think the powdery texture, once it dries down, has some serious benefits later on, but it is something to be aware of if you really like a full coverage foundation. I would say for the most part this erases a lot of flaws, but I wouldn't say this is a flawless coverage foundation. It's definitely light to medium, medium plus. A lot of CoverGirl foundations oxidize on me. This one definitely does. I apply it and it goes on lighter than my self-tan skin is. However, now you can see there really isn't much of a difference between this and my neck or any other part of my body. So it does oxidize a little bit, however, not as much as the other two foundations that I have from CoverGirl do. As far as lasting power goes, once this dries down, it is like concrete. It's not going anywhere, which is really fantastic for the warm spring and summer months. After 8 hours, it hadn't developed an overwhelming amount of shine, certainly less than either of the two other CoverGirl foundations I have. And for the most part, it was intact across my face. Despite having a powdery finish, it didn't get blotchy or cling to dry patches. I definitely would recommend moisturizing properly, as you would before placing your foundation on, but you definitely notice if you forget it, more so with this, because it does dry down to that powdery consistency. So the lasting power is great, and in terms of how it feels on your skin, it's very lightweight. Again, probably the lightest of the two other creamier sort of foundations I think CoverGirl has out there. So in terms of coverage, I would say that the 3-in-1 is most coverage. The new Ready Set Gorgeous is right above the True Blend, so pretty much in that order. And in terms of how heavy they feel, I would say that the 3-in-1 is up there, and in terms of lasting power, these two are comparable. It's just how you prefer your foundation to feel. This to me feels more like I'm wearing makeup, whereas this just feels really light and airy. Now moving on to the concealer, this is just the Ready Set Gorgeous concealer. I am in the shade Light, or 115 to 120, which was really nice that they gave you that range. The lighter next to this was the 115, so you know that if you have either this or the 115, you grab the light concealer, which was nice to have that shade matching. But in terms of what this says it will do, it just says helps conceal dark circles and imperfections in an instant. The lightweight formula glides on smoothly, blends easily, and lasts all day. The applicator is a typical doe foot, so you can apply it directly, blend in with your fingers or a sponge or a brush, however you prefer. Overall, I would say this is very light coverage. Don't count on any color correction. It doesn't conceal any discoloration or correct any discoloration. It truly is a very light coverage concealer, which might be great for covering blemishes over the face, but for someone like me who needs a little bit more help with her dark circles during the day, this didn't quite cut it. The texture is very thin, it's very smooth and blendable, so I didn't notice it sinking into any fine lines, which is great. But my one word of warning would just be to those who want full coverage, this is not for you. And as far as lasting power goes, I would say that this lasts really it's only as good as your setting powder. It has a pretty fine, I mean, it's not as concrete when it dries as this, so you really just need, especially in the under eye area where I personally find I have the most wear and tear, it definitely would not last by itself all day on me. You definitely need setting powder with it, but typically I set things anyway, so if you do too, that shouldn't be an issue with this concealer. And last, let's talk about the powder foundation. When I first saw this, I thought it was just a setting powder, but it is in fact its own standalone foundation, so I treated it not only as a setting powder, I did use it to set this concealer all over my face, but I also wanted to put it to a full foundation test, wearing it alone on my face. So first I want to talk about it as a setting powder. It's fantastic. It is probably the only setting powder slash foundation that has kept my under eye makeup from moving. I was taking mascara test shots. I was testing out L'Oreal's new Manga mascara, and typically when I do that, I take really close-up shots of my eye. I have to touch up before I take the final picture of my eye at the end of the day, just because, I mean, save any flakes or smudges because I want that to be well documented, but if there aren't, I will go ahead and touch up any discoloration because nothing lasts in my under eye area, and I tend to have pretty prevalent blue and purple-ness in my under eye area. That was not the case with this. What you saw is what you got with those pictures, and I was so impressed with this because of that. So as a setting powder, I think this is fantastic. Change it over to a foundation and the story is a little bit different. So I moisturize really well because on my skin, combination skin even, powder foundations tend to just not lay right, not quite evenly, so I need a really smooth, well moisturized canvas before I go in and apply something like that. I would definitely say it is light, maybe medium if you layer it the right way kind of coverage, because the more you layer it, the more powdery and unnatural the finish gets. Then I went in with concealer afterwards because that is how I typically apply my products. Foundation, then concealer on top. This does not play well with liquid products. The same goes for cheek stains. I was using kind of a gel cheek stain and liquid highlight. It just does not play well with liquid product. I noticed it kind of clumped up. It completely moved from my under eye area when I applied this concealer, and it created pretty much a line between where the concealer was and where the foundation had moved to this flaky, clumpy mess along my cheek that took forever to get off. It too dried like concrete, and not in a good way. So because of that, I recommend that if you are using this as a foundation, you can't use any sort of cream or liquid products over that. As far as oxidation goes, I didn't notice that so much with this, and when applied properly and blended out, which takes a little bit, certainly more work than it does with the liquid foundation. Once it's applied, looks nicely, wears nicely all day. It truly does set and stay, just like it does if you're setting a cream product. It's just, it takes a lot more working with to get those results. To me, that's just not worth it. I prefer using liquid anyway. So, in conclusion, what I would say about this line as a whole is that I love this foundation. Gotta be a little careful with layering it because it can look a little too powdery and unnatural if you really build it for coverage. However, once it's there, it stays all day. And it looks beautiful while doing it. This concealer is nice, just be aware that it is light coverage and you are going to need to set it with something to get it to last the day as well. But it's certainly not something I would say is a must-have from this collection. And then the powder foundation. As a foundation, it sucks. I would not recommend it. However, as a setting powder, it is thebomb.com. I really recommend that if you are getting this whole set, or if you have your own concealer that you want to use with it, I definitely recommend these two because it is a duo that will last all day and not budge if that's something that you're looking for the spring and summer. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed learning about these products and that this review was helpful. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!